Finally, they released the footage of this fatal incident that happened between Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony at the track meet. The facility in which the track meet was held does have very distant video footage of the incident taking place.
You're sitting in the back row of the courtroom, lights dimmed slightly by the heavy curtains and the tension in the air. All eyes are locked on one man, Karmelo Anthony. He's not the defendant, not today, but he might as well be. Because when the judge reads the words, first-degree murder charges against his parents, the weight of that moment crushes the room like gravity doubling. Karmelo's usually composed face begins to crack. He shifts in his seat, eyes darting nervously toward the defense table, where his mother and father sit in silence. Cameras aren't supposed to be rolling in that moment, but a quiet cell phone video leaks within hours. The footage shows Karmelo leaning forward, burying his face in both hands as the prosecution plays the most damning piece of evidence yet. A video allegedly showing his parents entering the Metcalf residence just minutes before the fatal confrontation. You don't need words to understand the damage it does to him. His reaction isn't one of rage, it's disbelief, the kind that sets in when your own blood has done the unthinkable. The courtroom falls silent. No one dares cough, move, or whisper. Even the judge takes a moment before continuing. Outside, reporters swarm the courthouse. Karmelo Anthony visibly emotional, one headline reads. Another breaks within minutes. NBA star breaks down in court as parents face murder charges. And now, fans who once rallied behind him are split, some offering support, others questioning how much he knew. Could he really have been in the dark? As the video ends, Karmelo's lawyer puts a hand on his shoulder. But the damage is already done. He's not just watching his family fall apart. He's watching the last thread of his reputation snap. And this is only the beginning. You don't even need to be in the courtroom to feel the aftershocks rippling through the country. The clip of Karmelo Anthony breaking down spreads across social media like wildfire. On Twitter, the hashtags #CarmeloBreaksDown and #Anthony trial begin trending within hours. And while the media has a field day, the public begins dissecting every frame, zooming in on his trembling hands, the cracked voice, the way he avoids eye contact with his parents. But what the cameras didn't catch was what happened during the break. Sources inside the courtroom say Karmelo stormed out into the hallway, pacing with his fists clenched, his eyes glassy. A court officer reportedly had to escort him to a private room to gather himself. One reporter described it like watching someone watch their entire life burn in slow motion. And in a way, that's exactly what was happening. Because this wasn't just a legal scandal anymore, it was personal. Karmelo's entire brand had been built on loyalty, family, and redemption. He often spoke about his parents in interviews, about how they sacrificed for him, about how their strength shaped his own. And now, that foundation is crumbling in front of millions. ESPN halts regular programming to run a special update on the trial. TMZ releases court sketches and footage of Karmelo exiting the building. Hoodie up, face down. Fans post side-by-side comparisons. The confident, composed Karmelo we saw after big games, and the shattered, silent man leaving federal court in chains of grief. And here's the haunting question echoing in group chats, forums, and headlines. Did he see the signs? Because if Karmelo Anthony, the icon, the survivor, the success story, couldn't stop the people closest to him from collapsing under the weight of their secrets, what hope does anyone else have? The courtroom plays the video again. It's the same footage that made prosecutors so confident, the same one that led to the guilty plea just days prior. But this time, the emotional impact hits like a freight train. The moment the screen lights up, Karmelo's entire demeanor changes. He doesn't flinch, but his jaw tightens and his breathing grows shallow. It's as if watching the video for the second time confirms a truth he still didn't want to believe. The footage is grainy but unmistakable. His parents' voices are heard, calm and composed, discussing the moments before the stabbing like it was premeditated. A timestamp appears. The jury leans in. In the audio, you hear Karmelo's mother say something chilling. "We just need to time it right." That one line is enough to send a visible shiver across the room. Even the judge raises an eyebrow. And Karmelo? He buries his face in his hands. Courtroom sketch artists scramble to capture the moment. You hear soft gasps from the gallery. Reporters begin writing their leads in real time. This isn't just a guilty plea anymore. This is a confession on tape. And for Karmelo, it's a gut punch he wasn't prepared for. At one point, the prosecutor pauses the footage and turns to the jury. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment mistake. This was a plan, a decision, an execution. That single line echoes through the courtroom like a bell toll. And as if on cue, Karmelo lifts his head and stares directly at his mother. No words are exchanged, no nods, no tears, just silence. And yet, in that silence, an entire world shifts. The son of the accused, the rising star with a clean image, the man caught between loyalty and law. You can almost hear the heartbreak in his stillness, because it's one thing to read the headlines. It's another to witness your own blood orchestrate something so dark, and know the rest of the world is watching you fall apart in real time. The aftermath of that courtroom video wasn't confined to the four walls of the courthouse. It rippled across the nation. Cameras captured Karmelo stepping outside after the session, his eyes red, lips pressed into a line, bodyguards shielding him from the flashes. But he couldn't hide the collapse in his spirit. This wasn't just a scandal anymore. This was personal ruin unfolding in the public eye. Outside, reporters shouted questions with no mercy. Do you still stand by your parents, Karmelo? Did you know anything before the arrest? Are you cooperating with prosecutors now? He didn't answer. He couldn't. But the silence spoke louder than a press conference ever could. Meanwhile, social media exploded. On X, formerly Twitter, a clip of Karmelo dropping his head during the courtroom video amassed over 3 million views in less than 24 hours. The top comment read, "Imagine watching your parents plan a murder and the whole world watching you watch it." Another viral post showed side-by-side photos, one of a younger Karmelo hugging his mom after a high school basketball win, the other of him in court, frozen, numb. The caption simply read, "From MVP to shattered soul." And then came the wave of division. Some fans rallied around him. He's still innocent. Don't let their sins bury him. Others weren't as forgiving. You mean to tell me he didn't know? Come on. Even verified accounts began debating whether his career could or should recover. The Metcalf family, sitting just feet away during the hearing, reportedly showed no outward emotion. But sources close to them said they were furious that Karmelo hadn't issued a public apology or statement. To them, silence was betrayal, a PR move instead of accountability. In that moment, Karmelo wasn't just a man caught in the middle. He was a symbol of the cost of silence, of the curse of loyalty, and of how fast public favor can turn to public fury when blood is involved. The weight of the evidence was already enough to buckle a courtroom, but what truly crushed the atmosphere was Karmelo's reaction when the prosecution introduced the final piece of the video. It wasn't just any footage, it was the doorbell cam from the Metcalf residence, showing his father's unmistakable figure lurking just minutes before the incident. There was no audio, just grainy, eerie silence as the man who raised Karmelo paced in and out of frame. Your breath catches, watching Karmelo's shoulders rise, stiffen, then fall as the clip loops again. He stares at the screen, almost hypnotized. Then he blinks hard, once, twice, before reaching for the tissue box in front of him. The judge doesn't pause. No one does, but everyone sees it. You glance around and catch one juror stealing a look at Karmelo, not out of judgment, but pity. It's the kind of moment that changes everything: public perception, jury energy, even family dynamics. Because this isn't just a son sitting behind his accused parents anymore. This is a young man unraveling in real time. Back on social media, the video of Karmelo reaching for the tissues, just a 6-second clip, goes viral. One user posts, "He held it together all trial until that." Another writes, "You can see the moment his world splits in two." The hashtags #sign Karmelo Anthony and #sign Courtroom collapse trend for hours. Meanwhile, the Metcalf family stays composed, but their attorney, catching wind of the viral clip, gives a brief statement outside. It's not tears we're waiting for, it's truth. And now people are asking, was this Karmelo's first time seeing the footage, or had he known all along? If you were in his seat, watching your family fall apart one frame at a time, what would you do? Speak, break, or stay silent and hope the truth goes unnoticed? The courtroom isn't supposed to be a place for breaking down, but on the 5th day of the trial, it's exactly where Karmelo Anthony comes undone. You see it before you hear it. A subtle shake in his shoulders, a quiver in his jaw as the prosecution transitions from hard evidence to emotional context. This time, they bring out the victim's mother. She walks slowly to the witness stand, clutching a photograph of her son. She doesn't cry. She doesn't raise her voice. But her words cut like glass. He wasn't just a name on paper. He was my baby, and he begged me not to let him go to that party. Karmelo shifts in his seat. The cameras catch it. A single tear carves its path down his face before he quickly wipes it away. The Metcalf family doesn't even glance in his direction. They stay forward-facing, eyes locked on the mother as she recounts the final text message Austin sent before he died. "Love you, Ma. See you tomorrow." It never came. You can feel the air thicken. Even the defense team lowers their pens. Karmelo's legal team tries to keep their client composed, but the damage is visible. His fists clench, knuckles white. His breathing speeds up. For the first time, he leans forward, elbows on the desk, eyes closed, as if silently praying for the moment to pass. But it doesn't. Across the internet, the moment explodes. Karmelo's breaking point, one headline reads. "You can't fake that kind of pain," another user tweets. But others are more skeptical. Guilt looks a lot like regret when you're losing. Now a new wave of debate emerges. Is Karmelo a broken son or a silent accomplice finally cracking? If you were the jury, would you see pain or performance? And does either change the facts of what's been done? Outside the courthouse, the divide grows deeper. Protesters gather again, this time not just for Austin Metcalf, but for clarity, for closure. Some hold signs that read "Justice for Austin," while others wave posters with Karmelo's face, claiming, "He's hurting too." It's no longer just about guilt, it's about what comes next. Inside, the defense shifts strategy. After the emotional testimony that visibly rattled Karmelo, they take a more humanizing route. They call on a longtime friend of the Anthony family, a former coach, someone who knew Karmelo from childhood. He talks about the pressure, the expectations, the fractured home life that boiled beneath the surface of Karmelo's perfect athlete image. But the prosecution doesn't budge. They fire back by reintroducing the most damning piece of evidence so far, the video clip. Not of the crime itself, but of the hours afterward. A surveillance video showing Karmelo arriving home with his parents, calm, silent, carrying a gym bag. The same gym bag later discovered to contain a blood-stained sweatshirt and partially burned gloves. You're in the room when it plays. You hear a gasp. Someone in the back can't hold it in. Karmelo won't even look at the screen. His lawyers urge the judge to move on, but the damage is done. Then, the prosecutor pauses and reads aloud a text message sent by Karmelo's father just minutes before the footage. "Get rid of it before he wakes up. He's already shaken." Karmelo drops his head. Online, it's chaos. One side screams setup, the other calls it a sealed fate. Conspiracy threads swirl, dissecting every angle of the clip, every frame of his expression. And through it all, a new question dominates the headlines. If Karmelo knew, if he helped, then what does pleading guilty really mean? And if he didn't, how much does silence cost when your parents are on trial for murder? The courtroom is still when the judge announces the next date. But for Karmelo, time is no longer moving in weeks. It's moving in heartbeats. You see it in the way he glances at his mother, who won't meet his eyes. You hear it in the soft click of handcuffs as both parents are let out again. Now no longer suspects, but self-admitted murderers awaiting sentencing. And yet, the question nobody can shake is, why plead guilty now? That's the thought racing through the media. Did the video force their hand? Was there a deal we don't know about? Or is this a final act of control to keep their son from taking the fall too? In a leaked voicemail from someone close to the family, a voice, believed to be Karmelo's mother, can be heard saying, "We did what we had to do. He'll have a life if we keep him out of this." It's not confirmed, but the internet doesn't need confirmation. It needs narrative, and that narrative is spreading like wildfire. Karmelo hasn't spoken publicly. Not a post, not a comment, not a tear on camera. But earlier today, a single photo emerged, taken from outside the courthouse parking garage. It shows him, hoodie on, slumped behind the wheel of a black SUV. His eyes are swollen. His mouth is tight. He's not just broken. He looks like someone who's been hollowed out. Now, as sentencing approaches, speculation grows. Will Karmelo be charged? Will he testify in exchange for immunity? Or has this all been the final move in a long game that was never his to begin with? And as the world watches this once beloved name spiral deeper into a case soaked in blood and silence, only one question remains. If Karmelo walks free,